Hello, everyone. I think we can just start. Oh, no?
This is Bernhard Wiedemann, and he's going to talk us about sshfs and other stuff.
Okay, this is a lightning talk which is about Fuse, which is Linux userland file systems. And one that many people know is sshfs. And you can use them like this, like SSH here, but then you have a colon at the end, and behind you can put a slash to have the root file system mounted. And here I mounted it in a local empty directory, and then I can access files on the other side, and for example play my MP3s without even copying on my local hard disk, but just leaving them on the remote server. So like NFS, but it's encrypted and can use SSH keys and all the mechanisms you have with SSH. So that's very nice, and you don't need to install any special software on the other side, but just the normal SSH that's already running there anyway for you to log in. Yeah, but that's only one example, and I wanted to show one other. Yes, to unmount you need fuse, fuse mount -u for unmount, and then it's unmounted again. So and now I wrote a userland file system myself. It's very easy. This one is here on GitHub under /Bernhard Wiedemann /curlwwwfs. And here's a README which says when you installed, you need the per-fuse module, which is not on the base distro for now, so you have to use a special one-click URL here. And you need the Perl web library, which is this one, and make is just for make install here. And because we don't have much time, I have prepared this part already here. I have installed make and the libraries and another Fuse module for ISO mounting. And I have here the checkout, which is also installed already. So we have a user bin curlwwwfs, and now we can mount a web server. So we take any web server. For example, I have my own one running here, and there I have a bootcd directory, and in this bootcd directory I have my old SUSE Linux 7.3 live CDs, which is 600 megabytes. So it's pretty big, and our wireless is slow, and maybe we just want to have a small look into it. And we can. So to do that, we call curlwwwfs and give the URL. Come on, it's this URL. And then we tell it where to mount it to here. And now it's running in the foreground. It's a very basic version. So we just send it to the background. And now we can check under mount that indeed here are our remote files, and somewhere up there are the ISO images. And now we use the Fuse ISO module to mount an ISO image. So we do mkdir. Let's move it up. We just need a second mount point. Let's call it mount 2. And now we use the ISO image here with the Fuse ISO tool, which is not by me. It's older, and we say, okay, we want to mount this ISO image to this directory as a normal user. We don't need any root access for this part either. And doing, yeah. And now, when we look into the mount2 directory, we have in here the contents of the CD, which has a bootloader part, so we can have a look at the bootloader or do a file on the Linux file, and it says, okay, this is Linux 2.4.20, and that's very old, but it was from the SUSE version back then. So we can view all the files, even the configs, and play with it. And when we are done, we use fuseiso-mount-u again to unmount that one and to unmount the other one, and then our breakdown process will end itself because it knows it's no longer needed and it's gone. So, and we still have some more minutes time, so we could have a look at the code, and that's pretty easy really. We have only one file, which is a Perl file here, and it's just 150 lines. The main part is this one that says if anyone comes and wants to read a file, call myRead function. If someone wants to do a stat, like get the size and the date of a file, call the myGetAddr function, and some more like directory listings. So how do we read from a web server? Yeah, very simple. We do an HTTP GET request, and of course you can read only small parts of a file, and you can also from a web server, and you do this with this range. You say range, start at this position, and this is the end position, and then the web server will go and only give you this part of a certain big file. And this is how we can access this ISO image, which is 600 megabytes, but we can still grab small parts without downloading anything over our very slow wireless interface here. So, and the other parts are a bit more complicated, and for example, the stat, like getting file sizes, will cache everything so that it's not too slow. But then if something on the server changes, it will not notice, so you would have to unmount and remount or something. It's a very basic version for now, but it works really nicely for me. So, do we have questions so far?
So when you try to mount the web server, the listing of files, how do you get that, the listing of files? Do you?
Yeah, I do an HTTP request. If you have this list here, you see there are file names, here are file sizes, here are dates when the file was last changed, and it just uses Perl library, the LWP library, where you can say do a GET request to this server with this URL, and then it will return this listing to me, and I have some regular expressions to pass this output. There are a few variations. For example, Apache has a slightly different format from Lite web server, but overall it works with quite many. For example, I used kernel.org as an example, and it worked there too. Yeah, the tricky part actually is here. The web server just writes this file is 3.7M. But when you want to read from a file, you need to know the exact size so that you can say read everything. So when I do the listing, I actually do a head request on every file to get the exact size as well. Otherwise, it wouldn't work. And I cache this information very aggressively, but that's okay for my use case. Yeah, more questions? Come on.
How easy is it to maintain such script? Because it involves, if I understood correctly, a lot of scrapping, and I think you have to deal with differences from in every web server. I think the files are presented differently.
So overall, there's one standard for the actual HTTP, which is RFC 2616, and you can read like the format of dates, how they look like, but the actual file listing is not standardized. So we have some regex peer, and this is in the getDir function, because getDir does the actual directory listing, and there we have lines because there are actual line endings in there, and we pass the hyperlinks here, and then if we have an exact size in there, which is for small files usually, then we are done, and if not, we do some extra stuff in there, but usually the regex are quite general. Like I had an earlier version that wanted it exactly to be like this and this and this, and then a later version made it more general. Like it doesn't matter what's in the middle. We have a dot star here in the regex, and just has to start like this. And at some point we have this other information, and then it's okay. So usually it just works.
As you just mentioned, the range value, the range value is the size of the field or the size of the web page.
I didn't understand.
It's disappear just before the terminal show a range value, UA equal / Okay.
Can you write it? Or show it?
Can you go down this field? Can you go down at the bottom of this field? The end of this field, the end.
End of file. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a range value, right? RANGE. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The file line. Yeah. A range, yeah. The value of range is the size of the file or the size of the page you get. You can use this value to filter the content, right?
Yeah. It adds a range header to the request it sends to the server. So it says, dear server, I want to have this file with this URL, and but by the way, I only want this range from byte 10 to byte 15.
The 10 to 15 is the field size. Byte. Okay. So it's not a page size, right?
No, you can read individual bytes, and it even says there bytes equals, so it gives a unit of measurement in the request. Okay, so I think we have our 15 minutes, and we pretty much covered everything I wanted to cover. So thanks for coming and being interested, and have fun.